Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. I'm a co-founder here at Friday, and today I would like to go over and talk about the Daily Huddle routine. So here at Friday, we are building tools to create process around the way that you communicate. It's our belief that when communication flows and when information flows on a regular basis, it helps make work better. And so what we like to do is break down all the different behaviors and habits that we see that contribute to that goal. And the Daily Huddle is one of those examples. So let's jump in with a quick overview. So a Daily Huddle typically happens every day at a regular time. We usually see it, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, depending on when people show up to work. Typically, it's 3 questions to share what's going on, and it's very popular in agile engineering teams or engineering circles, right? It's a key component of the agile workflow. And really the point of this cadence is to share information primarily, and it's also to identify and remove barriers to progress. The next part is the questions in the format. So typically, as I mentioned, we see about 3 questions, and it kind of takes the format of the following. So first, you talk about what did you accomplish yesterday, right? So what this typically does is it keeps someone accountable for the work that they said that they would do yesterday. Then the next question is, well, what are you working on today, right? Where are you moving? Where is forward motion going for you? And then the third question is roadblocks, or are there any barriers to progress? And what's really important about this roadblocks question is that in a highly collaborative team, when people are working on a bunch of interconnected pieces, the potential that one person could be a blocker to someone else is very, very high, right? So you want to make sure that the information is constantly flowing and that people are not blocked for long. That's really why you should do this on a daily basis. Let's talk quickly about pitfalls that you should avoid when running a daily huddle. So the first thing is that you should really show up to the huddle prepared to share the information. There's nothing more annoying than, waiting and hearing a team member try to remember what they did yesterday, especially if it's done in a synchronous format. The next step is that this really needs to be a predictable format. People need to know every day what they should expect. It decreases the ambiguity, and it also helps save time. We also recommend that this should at very most be less than 15 minutes, right? You really want to make your way through this update as quickly as possible. Additionally, you want to limit side conversations. When someone is sharing information or sharing what they did yesterday, there is this kind of gravitational pull for other people to jump in and talk about that item of work that was mentioned. You really, really want to avoid this at all costs. Limit those side conversations until the end, right? Because a one-to-one conversation, it's really most beneficial for those 2 people, right? It's not necessarily beneficial for the entire group. The next step, or the next pitfall you should avoid, is that you should not talk about activity per se. You shouldn't kind of list the items off like a to-do list or something that may already exist in Jira. You should share the output, and you should really tailor it for the benefit for others, right? This isn't a to-do list. At Friday, we really think you should hold these asynchronously instead. We don't really think you need a real-time meeting to share this information. So the first reason why we think a meeting is not the best format for this information sharing is that 15 minutes every day adds up over time. I remember doing a bit of research and back of the napkin math, but the idea is that the team of 5 people, each being paid, let's say 6 figures, low 6 figures, it can be thousands of dollars a month just to hold these daily huddles. It's also our belief that meetings are best for collaboration. There's a clear reason why you're there. It's this rich and fast feedback loop. It's a lot of back and forth. And when it's generally information sharing, we think meetings are not the ideal use case for that, right? You can leave the meeting and you can forget everything that was mentioned. We really prefer writing this down or sharing it, in a piece of software like Friday. Another point, based on our internal data with people using daily stand-ups and daily huddles, most of the time people actually don't have blockers. right? So most of the time, people are simply sharing what they did yesterday and what they're working on today. Blockers usually happens, let's say 25% of the time. And if there is a blocker, you can certainly have a meeting about it, or jump on a call, or have a meeting in person. But most of the time, people just don't have blockers. That's more rare. And then finally, there are time zone issues with distributed teams, right? I've been in meetings where someone was in the Netherlands and it was 9 p.m. at night and it was morning where I was. I just don't really believe that this is a good use of someone's time. Unfortunately, someone will get upset. And so that's why we recommend that you hold these asynchronously instead. We just think that you don't need a meeting to share basic information. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump in and I will show you how you can get set up with a Friday Daily Huddle workflow. To show you very quickly how you can set up a communication process in Friday around the Daily Huddle, so you can hold them asynchronously and save some time in meetings. So the first thing you'll notice is that we've given it a name, we've designated an icon, and we've assigned a purpose, right? This is just some basic metadata, so we won't spend much time here. The next step when creating a workflow is to designate the frequency, or when this workflow needs to run, right? So in this example, because this is a daily huddle, we want to run this every working day of the week at 9 a.m. in the morning. The next step is we build out our questions, right? So you can see I've built out a few questions so far. So what did you accomplish yesterday? What are you working on today? And any blockers, right? These are all open-ended questions, but you can assign a variety of different ones like emojis or sentiment or a numeric question or drop downs. It's really up to you. In this specific workflow, we also have Kudos power-up enabled. And what happens here is when you're filling out the daily huddle, you can also say thanks to a coworker for a job well done. Power-ups in this instance helps you do things that you would not normally do, but because it's baked into your everyday workflow, you're more likely to do it. The other example is suggestions, right? So if you have suggestions for improvement, instead of saying my door is always open, you can prompt people for suggestions, right? This is just an example of some power-ups as part of Friday. The next thing you can do is determine the participants, right? So in this specific example, this is a small team or a small company. And so we want everyone in the company to participate in this process, and everyone in the company should see the results. This should not just go to the manager. Everyone should see this so it becomes a bit more transparent. The final step in the workflow creation process is that you can determine the channels. So in this specific example, what we can do is we can only send this out over Microsoft Teams. And when people fill it out, we can add a notification that in which we push the information into a Microsoft Teams channel, or maybe we send a DM over Microsoft Teams. Maybe we just send an email, right? And if people don't fill it out, we can send a reminder as well. So as you can see here, Friday really just handles the entire process, so that you don't have to manually, set up a calendar reminder and manually send out, a form or something else. At Friday, we just try to make this, all in one so that you can get back to doing your best work. So I hope this was helpful.